Hi, this is Denise Matthew. I hope you're doing well. I'm back again to talk about the transits for March 2022. We do have some of the slower moving planets moving either lines or even into new gates. So that's something that we're going to talk about. We'll also talk about the Sun and the Earth transits and just some of the generalized themes. Basically, what we're looking at are the big players, you could say, and one is going to be Pluto. That's going to be moving from the second line to the third line. And we also have Neptune finally coming out of the gate 22, where it's been for a couple years, and moving into the gate 36. And it's going to be in the gate 36 for quite a while. So really, we'll be talking about the lines of how it's going to move through. Jupiter will also be moving, and Mars and Venus will continue to transit together or move together. So they'll be kind of impacting every gate together. And then slowly at the end of the month, they're going to start to be separating and kind of going on their own way, you could say. And another quick note is to say that we're talking about the global energy and how it can affect the globe in general and everybody in it. But there are going to be certain transits that will be more impactful for individuals in each individual who has that specific gate, or what I call impacted gates. In other words, it would be the gate that's either being transited or the harmonic, and sometimes it could even be the opposition on the mandala. So ultimately, some people will feel the impacts a little bit more, some people will feel them a little bit less. Basically, the thing to remember is that we are all individuals and we all interact or feel the energy of the transits differently. So how it works for you may not be how it works for other people. So following the transits is really helpful because what it can do is allow you to see where the places that you are being activated are and the places where you may not necessarily feel the energy as impactful. So with that said, let's get into the transits. We start out the month with the Sun in the gate 63 and the Earth in the gate 64. So if we look at these energies as always being a duality because they're always going to be opposite each other in the mandala, we will see that the gate 63, which talks about doubt, suspicion, it is the beginning of the logical system. So this is where we begin to formulate an idea or a new pattern for the future. The gate 4 is the harmonic to it, and that is where we start to come up with the answers that we want to have to how we can start to gather more information about new patterns in the future. If we connect it with the gate 64, then we're looking at this idea of confusion, and the confusion comes before we pick out the important details that we need. Now, when we think about the gate 64, we know that this is part of collective energy, and so is the gate 63, but their collective logic, which is the gate 63, which is patterns and predicting the future, and then we have collective abstract, which is looking at the past, finding information from the past and trying to use it in the present to improve the situation. So we have these two energies of wanting to find a future pattern, and we're also using some past information on how we can make things better for the future. These are both energies that are inspiration, or in other words, the fuel for the ajna, or fuel for clarity, fuel for awareness that can come over time. So in other words, when we first start out the month, we could be having a lot of downloads about things that we want to bring into the future, patterns that we want to enact, things that we want to change. And the way these patterns can be constructed is by using our past experiences, or even the past of, you could say, the collective, because when we do get something from the gate 64, this could be like a collective inspiration, having these moments where you find, oh, this has been done already, and how can I use it in a new pattern for the future? And something to keep in mind is that when we do have this inspiration, it can feel like pressure because the head center is a pressure center. So we might have a lot of pressure to get things figured out, pressure to ask questions that are going to get you answers that will clear the confusion that you have within you. So it could be a time of really wanting to find out what it all means, but not necessarily having the answers that you need right in your hand. And so that is where we need to be patient and to allow the clarity to come over time, as it usually does. The other thing is that we have the Sun going to be connecting with Jupiter, and it's going to make the theme even bigger of this sort of doubt and suspicion. What exactly is happening around the world? There could be suspicion about what people's motives are. There could even be this sense of self-doubt and not thinking you're good enough. So those are all themes that we will potentially be seeing, and knowing that those kind of self-doubts, for instance, that might be spinning in your mind are not necessarily the truth, and it's just this inspiration or this pressure from the head center. And to get out of that pressure, many times just getting out in nature, getting away from social media and all the anything that's related to media that's filtering so much of this information about the world around you, it can become overwhelming, and it can also leave you with a lot of questions. So unhooking from everything and just stepping out into the world and away from it all can be really healing and helpful during this time if you're feeling that there's a tremendous amount of pressure, because it is 2 head gates that are being activated. And the gates that are potentially going to be most impacted would be the gate 63, the gate 4, the gate 64, and also the gate 47. Right at the beginning of the month, we also have Mars and Venus, and they're going to connect with Pluto that's already in the gate 60. Now, when we have that connection, we're going to have Pluto's a very slow moving planet. So in other words, the changes that it's going to bring are going to be changes that happen over its long transit. So we're looking at Pluto being in the gate 60 for probably like three years. So that's why we would look at different lines and how it's going to be activated. When we do have Mars and Venus coming in and connecting with Pluto, that kind of activates the energy as well and brings out different expressions of the limitation of the gate 60. Now, we talk about the limitation of the gate 60, we see that it is about this idea of transcending the limitations. And when we do, then we move to a state of awareness where we're getting downloads. And it's really this awareness of how limitation works, and this concept that as soon as we start to be okay with the limitations of our life or become comfortable with the limitations of our life, that's usually when we have some level of up-leveling. And as I said, Mars and Venus are going to be sort of moving together for the whole of the month. And sort of at the end of the month, they start to separate and go their own way. That's because Venus was in retrograde for a while and it slowed down. It's just slowly taking time to speed up again. And until that happens, then we're going to have Mars and Venus connecting. In a lot of ways, you could say that this connection might be beneficial in that Mars can be very pushy, aggressive, get things done, and Venus is more of a balancing energy. So you have a yin and yang, and that is sort of what we're hoping for. Mars and Venus will meet Pluto exactly in the line 2. So Pluto is now in the gate 60 line 2. Decisiveness. And we talk about the line 2. This is about having restrictions or having limitations that might have been eliminated or are no longer necessary, and yet still feeling that they are necessary in our lives. And so this is where we're sort of waking up to the idea that maybe we can release these limitations that we have and we can move in a new direction. So it means that we could still want to do things the old way, and yet mutation has potential to bring new ways of doing things. So it's this idea of opening yourself up to this concept of change and being okay with doing things a different way, even though it's always been done a certain way. Now you're looking at, okay, well, maybe we can try to do something a little different and see how that works. So it's working in a way that we are starting to transcend some of these limitations. With Venus in there, we're looking at this idea that you can harmoniously be okay with the limitations, but then there's this other perspective where you just get so locked into this, why do these limitations exist and why do I have to have this in my life, that it becomes almost overwhelming and it can even make you melancholic. So it's about knowing that there is going to be an end to limitation, because that is how life is. There's always going to be end to every cycle. And this is just reminding you that this cycle will end and you will be out of the limitations. And with Mars there, this urge to just break through everything, to rebel, to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm tired of having these limitations. I'm going to break through these limitations. I'm going to just break the rules if I need to, and I'm going to pay the cost of what that means. What it also means is that with this energy is that as soon as you break through one limitation, if you haven't transcended it or worked through it the way this energy is meant to work, what it says is that there will be a new limitation placed in front of you. And that's the whole key with this energy, to understand that we can transcend them, but we have to be open to when the mutation happens and when the limitations have allowed us to sort of level up so that we are no longer working where we were and we have an expansion that is possible, but only if we're open to seeing it happen. And a lot of times we get so so entrenched in this concept of I am being oppressed, I can't move, I can't do anything, that you may not see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that there is something new that's opening up. And that's where we really need to open up our eyes and say, okay, there is something new coming. There is more to this than what I see. And because that's the whole key with this energy, is to be able to see those opportunities to transcend, to move forward, and to take one more step in your trajectory of life. And the gates that might be impacted the most would be the gate 3 or the gate 60. On March 3rd, Saturn moves into the gate 49. And again, this is one of the slower moving planets making a big change. And this is going to bring this concept of tribal energy. When we talk about Saturn transiting a gate, it is this concept of people who are marginalized potentially, people who are in some way disadvantaged or in some way disenfranchised. And if you talk about the revolution of the gate 49, this is saying we are not being supported and we are going to revolt. This can talk about food insecurity, food in general, and how we feed ourselves, because this is the idea that the tribe needs to be supported, the tribe needs to be taken care of, the people need to be taken care of. And in this way, we're looking at a leader who is supporting the people, a leader who is saying, okay, I will give you what you need, you support me, and I will support you. But if there's this idea that you are not being supported by the person or the leadership that you have backed, then this is where this revolt really comes into play. This is also talking about the principles of how we live our lives. And we have a certain way that we hold on to certain principles. And if those are being ignored or not upheld, then that's another reason for this revolution energy to express itself. The other perspective is this idea that this is about power that is to support humanity, to improve humanity, and not power that is used for the just power's sake. So those are the kinds of themes that we could potentially be feeling within this energy. And the gates that could be impacted the most are anybody with the gate 19 or the gate 49. So we also have Neptune moving on March 7th, and it's moving into the gate 36, like I said it would. This is really showing us that in the first week of March, we do have a lot of activity, a lot of energy that's shifting and changing. So it's a very dynamic time where a lot of things are happening. And during this whole time, we do have the pressure gates of the gate 63 and also the gate 64 in play as well. So there's a lot of pressure to figure it out, to get the answers that you need, to find some solutions, but not necessarily having access to those solutions until a later time. And that time, of course, we never know because it's divine timing. So now we're looking at Neptune moving into the gate 36, and this is really talking about change happening. The thing about the gate 36 is it's abstract collective energy, and it is about this idea of, they call it chaos or crisis. But the reason why you would even call it that is because it is something where it's a brand new experience that we've never done before. And as anybody knows, as soon as we're starting something new, and if you learn how to ride a bike, you're going to fall. You're going to skin your knee many times. Sometimes you won't if you have knee pads. But at the end of the day, you will have some level of it not working out exactly the way you want to. And that makes sense. So this is what Neptune is bringing in. Now, when we talk about Neptune, we're talking about something we don't see. Like even in your own body graph, Neptune might be the one gate that you just can't put a finger on. You can't really get a bead on exactly what it means for you. And that really is the energy that it's going to bring in the gate 36. And this gate 36 is this crisis, yes, but also crisis resolution. Chaos, yes, but also what do you learn from this energy? What are we getting from this energy that will allow us to see something in the future, to know what experiences are worthwhile? What do we get from the experience? Reflecting on what happened so that we have a better foundation. There can also be this sense of boredom, of wanting to do something new because you've been so stuck in one place that you just want to get out of where you are. And you also have gate 60 being activated by Pluto, which is this limitation. So this idea that you just want to break free, that you just want to jump in and do anything. And that is where you might jump into something that may not actually be what you think it is. And that's where we can have this discernment of what exactly we're getting into. Because remember, with Neptune here, we could be jumping into this idea of something brand new. But with Neptune there, we don't see the full picture, not until we're actually in there. And even then, we may not see it. This is where we're still wanting to get new experiences, deciding that, yes, I want to move in a new direction. I want to go on this trip. I want to start this new thing, but also understanding that having a really fixed idea of how it should play out may not necessarily work to your advantage. This is where we have expectation and letting go of expectation and being within the energy of what exactly is happening, to be in the moment of this experience and to get what you're going to get, because you really can't predict exactly how these experiences are going to work out. The other perspective is when we move into the 36 line 1, because we're starting the beginning of this energy, it's this idea of change. And now this is bringing change into the collective, ushering change into the collective. And with Neptune there, there's not this clear path. You don't really know what this change is going to look like, what it's going to bring. And there are people who want to go back to yesterday, people who are not okay with change, people who don't want to see things in any way different than they used to be. So it's this concept of, some people say, the new normal when we talk about everything happening since the pandemic. And you also have people who say, I don't want the new normal, I want the old normal. What the Gate 36 says is that the old normal is not part of the plan. This is the new going forward. Change is always going to bring us new things in our lives. And a lot of times we'll say, yeah, I want change, but I don't want it to be tough. I want change, but I don't want it to be in any way inconvenient for me. This says that change will probably be inconvenient, but in the end, you have something better. And sometimes it can be a little bit of a tough ride, but eventually evolution happens. And that is what we do as a human race. We are always stepping in a new way, a new direction, and that's part of evolution. The impacted gates are going to be the Gate 36 and also the Gate 35. March 8th, we have the Sun moving into the Gate 22 and the Earth moving into the Gate 47. And Neptune has been in the Gate 22 for a very long time. And this is just kind of a bookend, you could say, saying, okay, how do we do with all the things that we've had to cope with, all the things that were uncertain, all the suffering that we had to endure? And it's also a time where we can potentially pat ourselves on the back and say, yeah, we made it through. We got through things we didn't think we could. This is what we call grace under fire. Having the endurance, having the ability to, instead of collapsing and being unable to move forward, you continue to push forward. And I think in a lot of ways, we could also look at it as a time where we're actually seeing how well we did and how resilient and strong we were, even if we didn't see it. Because with Neptune moving out of the Gate 22, it's starting opening up this energy to be able to see where we were suffering, where we were strong, and how we actually endured a lot of things, even if we didn't see it at that particular time. And if we add in the Gate 47, the Earth in the Gate 47, we're grounding into this idea of looking at the world all around us. How do we find grace with the circumstances of our lives, with the suffering that we many times have to deal with? Well, it can be about looking at the world in a way that it is, the cup is half full or the cup is half empty. And that is what the Gate 47 says. Do we see it from a place of potential, or do we see it from a place of oppression? And everybody will have their own iteration of how that looks for them. And there are some people who always look at the side of positivity without anything other than that. And then there's the other side where it's just about all the horrible things and not really seeing any light in the world. In reality, a balance in all things. To be able to see the suffering and that there are some tough parts of life, but also to be able to see the light. And when you see that balance between the two, then you can see the good things that you have. And you can also have the courage and the strength to know that even though life can be difficult in many ways, you didn't allow it to get you down and you continued to move forward. This is also individual energy that talks about how we express ourselves creatively, how we are authentically ourselves. And it is honoring yourself when you feel like you're in the mood to be out in the world talking to people, or when you feel like you just want to be home doing your own thing. And that's another part of this energy. This is creativity for creativity's sake, and creating for yourself and not for the world around you, and expressing yourself exactly the way you want to because it makes you feel good. And if we look at the sun having transited the gate 63 and also Jupiter transiting the gate 63, we can look at the gate 47 as where we're getting the awareness from the downloads that we had from the gate 64. And the most impacted gates with this energy can be the gate 12, the gate 22, the gate 47, and also the gate 64. On March 9th, Venus and Mars are still moving together, and they move into the gate 41. Now, if we look at the gate 41 as the beginning of the human design year and the gate 60 as the end of the human design year, we can see that the beginning and the end of a cycle are in some way some form of limitation. And I know I've been saying limitation quite a bit, but it truly is a theme that we're going to be working with for the next couple of years. And so if we can make friends with the concept of limitation and what it truly means, and this idea that we can get a lot of things that we need and opportunities within the limitation, and at any point mutation can happen and we can transcend our limitations and move to the next step of whatever that is for us. So if we look at the gate 60 as the end of a cycle and the gate 41 as the beginning of a cycle, we know that both Venus and Mars are starting a brand new cycle. This is also an initiating codon where things begin. This is the beginning of experience. This is the beginning of desire, something that we want to bring into our lives, an experience that we want to have. This is emotional energy. The limitation that we speak about when we come to the gate 41 is talking about the idea that at the end of a growing season, which would be the gate 60, we have to trim back or prune a shrub or a tree so that we have new growth. And that's really what it is. So it's you're decreasing something, but the whole point is that eventually you want it to increase. And that's the guidance that we're being given when we have the gate 41 in play, is that what are we ready to sort of trim back something on? What are we ready to let go of so that we can allow more things into our lives? And if limitation is the word that we're working with, we can also say the other word that we're working with is change. And this is saying that change will come the way it comes. And it may be disruptive and it may make you feel uncomfortable because you're not used to it, but eventually it can bring you new growth, something amazing and something beautiful that you never would have expected if you hadn't decided that you're going to take the chance and allow change to be part of your life. And we know that if we prune back a tree or a shrub or something like that, it's going to take time for it to grow. And sometimes you can feel as though it's never going to grow. And that's another part of this. So being open to knowing that things will unfold the way they're going to unfold and things will grow despite what we think. Life will continue to happen. The universe will continue to give us things in our reality because that truly is the nature of being alive. The most impacted gates could be the gate 30 and also the gate 41. On March 13th, we have the sun and the earth moving again, and they're moving into the gate 36 and also the gate 6. So the sun will be connecting with Neptune, so it might activate that energy of the gate 36, which is all the things we talked about, the newness, the change, the chaos that can come when we're learning something new or starting to make a change that we have no experience with. Anything that we're inexperienced with, it can bring some level of a crisis feeling, or things are out of control, or things are disruptive. And if we look at the earth and what we can ground into, it's the gate 6, which is all about diplomacy and resolving problems and how can we work through things. The key word with this is the law of growth cannot exist without friction. So in other words, these new experiences that we're diving into, we may not know what we're doing, and it may cause issues or friction or some level of being out of control. And yet when we have the gate 6, we're looking at how can we penetrate the experiences that we're having or these new changes and figure out how we can find stability within these changes. From a global perspective, we could see that maybe there's a lot of global disruption, and we're looking at a way to resolve the global disruption, a way to find a solution that is diplomatic, or some way that we can come together and have some sort of an allegiance or some kind of a pact where we come together to hammer out our differences and come up with some sort of a peaceful solution. The gates that might be most impacted with this are the gate 36, the gate 35, the gate 6, and also the gate 59. And on March 13th, we have Jupiter moving from the gate 63 into the gate 22. And if we look at Neptune just coming out of the gate 22 and having sort of a veil over everything, we now have Jupiter coming in and expanding everything. So all the things we didn't see before, we're going to potentially get a bird's eye view of exactly what was going on behind the scenes that we didn't actually know. And the kind of themes that we might be looking at is this idea of something looking really, really good or really appealing, but not necessarily being as advertised, you could say. So in other words, we're needing to really be open to this idea of there is something beyond this facade or this beautiful thing or this amazing personality that may not be as advertised. And that is where we're waking up to the truth of something, just seeing the outer appearances and believing that because that person dresses in a suit that they must be a decent person. And with Jupiter, it's going to be related to laws, rules, spirituality, higher education. Those are all Jupiter's domain. This is also where we're stepping into the concept that if we don't feel like we want to do something or we're not in the mood to do it, being allowed to stay back and be out of the fray and honoring how you feel as opposed to shoving yourself out even if you don't feel like doing it. And that's sort of this individual expression of yourself and deciding where you want to go, when you want to go, and if you even want to go, and aligning with exactly what feels right for you instead of feeling obliged to do something that you may not even want to do, but you feel that you need to do it for other people. So this is saying if you don't want to do something, you don't want to hang out with people, you don't want to socialize, honoring that feeling and doing what feels best for you. And the most impacted gates can be the gate 63, the gate 4, the gate 22, and also the gate 12. On March 15th, we have the nodes changing from the gate 8 and the gate 14 into the gate 43 and the gate 23. This is one of the three oppositions. The other two are the 3740 and also the 2034. When we talk about an opposition, that means that not only are gates opposite each other on the mandala, but they're also gates that come together to make a channel. And this would be the 2343 channel. That brings definition to the head and ajna. So this can be a lot of people saying, I know type of energy where a lot of people are going around with this concept that they know something. This is also an energy that is extremely mutative, and it's also an energy that will bring new and innovative things into the collective, but it's also something that needs time and people to help this energy along so that it can actually get taken into the collective, or people will adopt what you have to say and make it into something more than just an idea in your head and into something manifest in the real world. And the other perspective is this is going to give everybody this energy, and it means that we're all going to have throat access to this energy that talks about mutative ideas. And yet this is also a projected channel, meaning that if we're just going around and blurting out these new and innovative things that we want to bring into the collective, then we might get shut down. This is something that needs to be called out of us or asked for. And when that happens, more people are likely to help us along our path, because that's exactly what we want to do with this energy. We have these sort of far-reaching, new and innovative ideas, and yet we need other people to help make it happen. This other perspective of this energy is this is innovative energy that is far into the future. In other words, it's going to take a long time before we see it manifest in the real world. And in that time, it's going to need to go through, you could say, a lot of hoops before it gets to its final destination. So this is something that you not only get, you get the awareness with it eventually, and the awareness continues to build on what it exactly means, how you're going to bring it into the world. So this is a potential time for, you could say, a bit of an expansion or a renaissance where we're starting to bring brand new concepts and ideas into the collective so that we can evolve in some way. So in other words, we're having a lot of things that say, work within the limitations that you have, work with what you have. And also this idea of we're changing, things are changing. And then we also have this energy that's pulling in these new and innovative concepts that might help you in your future. And some key words that can come from this nodal energy is that the world is ready for brand new and innovative ideas, ones that can in some way reform societies, institutions, and this idea of championing diversity and also inclusivity. And the gates that can be impacted with this are the gate 43 and also the gate 23. On March 14th, we have Venus moving into the gate 19. And on March 15th, we have Mars moving into the gate 19. And this is going to bring a full 1949 emotional channel. And that's going to last until the 23rd of March. So this is really bringing more of that power, emotional energy, and this revolutionary emotional energy that says we're not going to stand this anymore. We need change and we need it yesterday kind of energy. Venus will be with Mars until March 20th, and that's when they start to, as I said, start to break away from each other, where Venus is getting a little bit more speed and is entering new gates before Mars does. On the positive side, with Mars in the gate 19, we can be in this perspective of taking whatever help you can get because somebody can keep up with you, or inspiring people to make changes in the world, to make life better for the people who feel as though they're not part of the world, the people who feel marginalized, disenfranchised, or in some way disadvantaged, helping them find their stride and to get further ahead in their life. So there is potential for a lot of good things to happen. But remember, this is emotional energy. So it's going to have some ups and downs, and that's the nature of emotional energy. There's always going to be an emotional wave. And a lot of times with an emotional wave, we might act in a way that we think it's the right direction to go, but it may not necessarily be the right direction because emotional waves need time to go through their wave or go through the ups and downs of how you feel about a decision before you finally make a decision as to where you want to go. This can be about acting and then thinking afterwards. And so it's a good time to use your discernment to decide what is right for you if you want to take some time to think about something before you act on it. So instead of revolting in the moment, taking a breather, sleeping on it and deciding, is it really worth my while? Is it something that I want to put my energy into? And this is about a well-planned revolution where things change and humanity is bettered for it, or something where you're just jumping in with a passion and then later on you wonder why you actually jumped in the first place. The other perspective is that this can be all about relationships and deciding what relationships that you want to be in, or this idea of how much somebody is giving and how much somebody is taking. How much are you giving and how much are you taking? And looking for a way to have some kind of equality where both partners are giving something and also receiving something. So there's a balance in the relationship. And if there isn't a balance in the relationship, that is when we have this potential to want to break free, to get out and to not be part of the relationship anymore because it doesn't serve us. And the gates that can be impacted with this energy are the gate 19 and also the gate 49. On March 19th, we have the Sun and the Earth moving into the gate 25 and also the gate 46. And these are two of the love gates. The other two are the gate 10 and also the gate 15. The gate 25 is the love of the spirit. This is about innocence, or this idea of being out in the world and helping the world in some way and doing it because it feels right for you. There's no ulterior motive. It's just because you want to infuse your spirit or your love, you could say, into the world. And the duality of this would be this idea of being out in the world and doing these kind of gestures where you're trying to help the world and help humanity in some way, but you're looking for some recognition for what you're doing. And the whole point of the gate 25 is you are spreading the spirit of who you are, the love of your spirit, and you're spreading it to the world all around you. If you're looking for recognition, a lot of times people will look at you and say, oh, that person's just doing it because they want attention. And And that is the last thing you want to do. You want to be able to be out in the world just doing your own thing and helping people because it feels good, not because you feel as though you might be spotted for what you're doing. And that's really what this energy is talking about. And we're looking at the gate 46. We're grounding into this idea of our bodies being the temple of our souls. If we look at human design as it being a strategy that we have that will get us on the right path, the right trajectory of life, and the gate 46 and also the gate 29 for the full channel, it is about putting us on the right path of life. And if we're not on the right path, our body tells us that it is not feeling well. And a lot of times, if you have the gate 46 or even the gate 29, you can have health issues if you're not on the right trajectory for you. And it can point you in a direction that says, okay, you need to change something because this isn't what you're meant to do. This is about body positivity, loving who you are and the form you were given, because without the form you were given, then you don't have life. Life is equated to having a body. And when we don't have a body, we don't have life. So it is part of this idea that to be in form, to be in the Maya, loving our body and loving who we are as a whole is probably one of the best gifts that we can give ourselves. This also talks about being in the right place at the right time, synchronicity, serendipity, all those types of energies. So when we're allowing our body to show us the way, the form to show us the way, then it can take us to the places that we need to be. And that's what this energy is talking about. In other words, if we're out in the world trying to help the world in some way, trying to help humanity, trying to help other people, the body will lead us to where we need to go. Because even if we don't believe it, it does actually know more than the mind about what we need to have in our lives and where we need to go. The most impacted gates with this energy can be the gate 25, the gate 51, the gate 29, and also the gate 46. On March 20th, Venus moves into the gate 13. This energy talks about the idea that by the stories and experiences of others, we can be transformed ourselves. So in other words, we might listen to somebody's story and in some way it touches a chord in our life and it wakes us up to something that potentially we want to change in our life or a transformation of some sort. This is where we're telling people, you know what? You do have more potential than you think. There is something within you that can become, like this image shows, you're turning a caterpillar into a butterfly. You can be shown, or you can show other people the secret of something that they don't know about themselves. This can also be about just secrets coming out into the collective. Now with Venus there, Venus isn't so happy in this energy, meaning that there can be this sense of fatigue, tiredness of hearing the stories of people, and especially because Saturn has been in this energy. It would have just moved in the beginning of the month, but before that, Saturn has been in this energy for a long time. And a lot of these stories of people and not happy stories, because there's suffering that comes with Saturn. And so there's potential for Venus in this energy saying, okay, I've heard enough stories. I just need some peace. I need to get away from the stories, to be in my own space, to be alone for a while, because the gate 13 is connected to the gate 33 with the full channel. And the gate 33 is about an aloneness gate. The gate 13 can sometimes want to have that same aloneness. And this is really about this idea of potentially wanting to withdraw, be away from people, and to not listen to those stories anymore for a little while, to actually get a break, to be able to dive into something that you want to dive into, to listen to new stories or look at experiences that make you feel alive and happy. And it doesn't mean that we're not looking at the hardships and the suffering of life. We're just taking a break from it so that we can recharge and have more energy to be able to be there to listen to the stories of people that need us to sort of guide them to where they can move in the future. And this can impact the gates 13 and also the gate 33. And on March 23rd, Pluto moves from the line 2 to the line 3, and we're moving from decisiveness to conservatism. Based on what has been happening in the world, Pluto seems to be bringing limitations, but these limitations seem to be human-made, or limitations that humans are making on other humans. That's what it seems like based on what we've seen happening in the world. So this is one step more in this same energy, because The line 3 is always going to be about some level of adaptation, experimentation, figuring things out, deciding what works and what doesn't work. And the only way we can discover what works and what doesn't work is by seeing what doesn't work. And that's how this energy works. This limitation that we're talking about with Pluto is this idea of seeing that we are in a certain place and that eventually we'll move to a different place. How can we find harmony within the place we're at so that eventually when we move, we're okay, we're ready to move, but we're not chomping at the bit saying, I need to get out, I can't do this anymore. Because there's this idea that we know that transcendence will happen, that the limitation will be released. It always will come to an end. That's how it happens. Change is always inevitable. We just don't know when it's going to happen, but it is always inevitable. Nothing is permanent. And that's the impermanence of life. And the other side of the line 3 is this idea of breaking out of the limitations, deciding that you can't do it anymore, and being willing to take the consequences, whatever they are. It also says that the limitation will usually be followed by a new limitation, the one that you've broken through, instead of allowing to open up the way it's meant to, will many times put another limitation in front of you. But there's also this other idea that it is worthwhile, or you're willing to pay whatever price it means that you have to pay so that you can be released from the limitation. This also can point a finger at the idea that other people are breaking through limitations, and by them breaking through limitations, it may limit other people. And that is the other side of the third line energy, in that sometimes we can make decisions that won't only impact us, but they'll impact other people. And so that's something that is important for us to keep in mind when we are deciding that we just want to push away, push the barrier down, and we just can't take it anymore. You know, it's this whole idea of, if I get out, does that mean that I'm trapping somebody else in? And those are the kind of questions that if we ask ourselves and we see humanity as a whole instead of just the individual self, then that can help us to transcend the limitations that we need to. And if you really need to break a barrier, to mitigate the cost to other people and accept the cost for yourself. And on March 24th, Mars moves into the gate 13, and Mars brings this energy of wanting everybody to believe what you believe, being open to other people, allowing them to see who you are, and hoping that they'll kind of come on board with what you have to say. Now, that can happen in a way that people are coming on board with what you have to say, or your beliefs or your values, but it can also be the other perspective where people don't align with your beliefs or values. And the key with this energy to have parallel beliefs and understand that if you want to get on board with what other people are saying, that's perfectly fine. But if it doesn't feel like it's right for you, then there's this perspective of respecting somebody else's feelings, ideas, beliefs, and values while holding to your own beliefs, ideas, and values. And also being okay with people not getting on board with what you have to say, because we all have different feelings, opinions, and we're entitled to our own authority, our own beliefs, and deciding for ourselves what is right and what isn't right, and what values we hold in our lives. This can be more impactful for the gates 13 and also the gate 33. On March 25th, we have the Sun moving into the gate 17 and also the Earth moving into the gate 18. Now, both of these energies are logical collective energy, and this is again moving into logical patterns, new patterns for the future that will bring us the stability that we want. So we have a lot of disruption, you could say, a lot of change happening with the gate 36 being in play, and also with the revolutionary energy that Saturn is in. This is bringing something that is going to start looking at how can we come up with better formulas, better ideas for how we can improve the patterns going forward to make things better for humanity, to make things better for the people that Saturn is talking about, the people that are disenfranchised, the people that are marginalized, the people that don't feel like they have a voice or feel like they're in some way not being heard for what they have to say or not being seen for what they have to offer to the world. The gate 17 comes up with a hypothesis of something that we can eventually try in the future to see if it works. And the gate 18 says, okay, these things are not working. So we're grounding into the idea that the gate 18 saying, this isn't working. We need a change. This is wrong. This is calling out all the things that are wrong so that we can have better patterns. It also calls out the things that are beyond repair and they need to be replaced altogether. So that's the energy. And the interesting part is that after the gate 18 comes, the gate 48 is going to be the next transit of the sun and earth. And the gate 48 is part of this energy that's going to take it to the throat. Or in other words, we're moving past this idea of correction and figuring out what doesn't work and what needs to be replaced altogether. And now we're starting to implement it in a real way that we are starting to manifest something in the real world. And the gates that might be impacted the most could be the gate 18, the gate 58, the gate 17, and also the gate 62. And on March 26th, Venus joins Saturn in the gate 49. And this is talking about the yin energy, or the feminine energy, you could say. This is how we make money, our resources, and coming up with some revolutionary ideas or something brand new for how you make your money. Maybe revolting in the work that you do and changing what you do. This is also about deciding whether or not you want to be in a relationship or not, if you want to be committed to somebody or not, if the partner that you have is worth your energy and time anymore, if you're giving too much and you're not getting back anything, because the energy of the gate 49 is really talking about a give and take. It is not ever supposed to be a one-sided energy. So when it becomes one-sided, that's when there's this energy where you just want to let go and not do this anymore. You've had enough. You walk out and it's done. The impacted gates can be the gate 19 and also the gate 49. And on March 30th, we have the sun moving into the gate 21 and the earth moving into the gate 48. The sun will actually be conjuncting or connecting with Chiron. So what this is going to bring is this wounded energy, and it's going to illuminate this wounded energy of control. How much control do we have? How do we use the control that we do have? Are we pushing our control on other people, or are they pushing it on us? There's a lot of power struggles within this energy because it can be overwhelming. It is tribal energy. So in other words, it is about you listen to what I say, but of course we can always get to this dynamic where it's over the top or it's unbalanced in some way. And when we have Chiron there, there's this wounded energy that's saying, I don't want to be controlled. I don't like this feeling of being controlled. And how we find balance within this energy is this idea of depth. Now, when we look at depth, we connect it to the gate 18 and the gate 58, and that is, it's a whole stream that goes right directly to the throat. And this is the energy of logical collective energy that is trying to get better patterns or some skills into the world. This is about somebody who has a lot of talent if they have the full channel. The gate 48 has a lot of connection to wanting to know more, going into the depths of everything, to want to get so deep into things. Sometimes you get lost in the depths and you don't ever want to come out because you never feel like you're good enough. But we can also see that this energy is essential to get new logical patterns in the future, to get more stability, to bring the collective to a more stable place, which is what we're trying to do, because as soon as we have some level of change or big changes in the collective or the globe or in the world all around us, we eventually need to get some structure, stability, and some way of getting things back on track, you could say. It doesn't have to be exactly the same way as it used to be. This is always going to be something that is born of the energy or the mutation, and then the collective take it in and make it into something that we all can use to make a stable future for us. So this is important energy, and it's also important that we don't get lost in this idea of one more course, one more book that we need to read before we put out anything into the world, because the world needs something. The world needs better patterns, and we probably have everything we need already when the gate 48 is in play, which means that it's time to move to the next step so that we can start to bring the changes, the new structures, and all those things that will give us more stability into our lives. The gate 21 can also be connected to how we make our money. This is abundance. This is banking systems and those types of things. So we're looking at how we can restructure all those systems that may not be exactly up to par right now in a logical way, in a patterned way, so there's stability, so that we feel as though it's working towards the common good, because ultimately the gate 48 is trying to work for the common good to get things better for humanity. And the gates that can be impacted are the gate 21, the gate 45, the gate 48, and also the gate 16. And that's it for the transits for March. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're still around, thank you for watching. And I will be coming back to talk about the full moon and the new moon. And also, please feel free to check out my community page where I put daily posts on all about transits and also just topics about human design that hopefully you'll find interesting. So that's all for now, and take care, and I will see you soon.